Okay, hey everybody. I hope you all had a great day so far. My Wednesday's gone pretty well. Can't complain too much. Okay, so I guess let's get started. I think everything's working so far. Okay. So yeah, we're working more on our Twitch interactive concentration or memory style game. It's kind of like if you have, there's like a certain number of tiles that have pictures on them, and you turn them over and then players guess which tiles have a matching picture, and then they're revealed. And if they are correct, then that player would get a point. Otherwise, the tiles are turned back over. So you kind of have to try to remember which tiles have been revealed and which ones have which picture. So we're going to try and make a Twitch interactive version of that where players can vote in chat for what tiles to uncover. And then the tiles themselves will have like Twitch users' logos on them, and there'll be some other ways that viewers will be able to interact with the game while it's playing. But this is what we've got so far. Not much to look at, but the more interesting part is we have entities here for each tile. Okay, I was going to say they've been assigned an image, but maybe I was in the middle of doing something. Oh yeah, so I was... Okay, the reason it hasn't run yet is you can see up here each tile is supposed to be assigned an image, and there should be a pair of tiles, each with some image assigned. But that code hasn't run yet because I was in the middle of changing the code that uploads the actual image indexes to into the game. Alright, so yeah, here's the tile face test texture creator. So this is pretty much done. Or do I probably want to assign a color to this. So yeah, they have a tile face ID and then this display texture, which for now is just going to have a color. So in order to add that, we just need to create another component onto these image entities. And so Unity actually does have this function. I know last stream I was saying I need to go find a way to convert hue, saturation, and value colors to red, green, blue. But Unity already supports it, so we don't have to worry about that. And so basically I just want the hue to I just want them to be evenly spread out. So if we had like 3 colors, it would be red, yellow, and blue. So I think we can just do something like divided by the number of images times 360, and then just pick a saturation. I'll just go 1 and value. Oh yeah, this should be a comma. That's what it was complaining about. Not implicitly. Oh, right. Okay, that's kind of annoying, but again, it's because the new Unity stuff uses a different type of storage structure for vectors. So yeah, the new Unity uses what they call a float3, and old Unity still uses vector3 or color. Unfortunately, they don't automatically convert between each other, so I'll have to do it manually, but not like that's very difficult. green and color blue. I want to go ahead and try to use the new Unity types as much as I can, because in the future they'll probably convert everything to just use the float 3 structures. So might as well just get ahead of the curve. Okay, so now if I create or add that component here, and let's just have, I guess, again, we have 16 tiles, so we'll want 8 images. Again, I need to remember to do that outside of test mode. So 8 images will mean every tile will have one. Well, every image will have one pair associated with it. So if this runs, the swapping code still didn't run. Okay. Oh, well, here's one bug. I don't think, for some reason I noticed these image entities weren't being created. But this is the start function, and it's a mono behavior. So I should see entities in here. Oh, now they are. I don't know what was wrong before. But yeah, so now we have entities for the images, or actually those are tiles. Where are the images? Yeah, right here. So yeah, each entity has its own ID. Oh yeah, and for testing I made the IDs only be even, so that way we know if there's ever an odd face ID, then there's been some mistake. And then they each have a color. Okay, well that's kind of interesting because apparently I'm using the hue saturation value wrong, because you can see here this color is just red, but every other one is pure black. So I guess it's probably a range from 0 to 1 instead of 360 like I thought. Maybe I should actually look at that function. Let's not be lazy. So Unity, hue saturation value to RGB. And okay, yeah, so it is between 0 and 1. Well, that's fine. It doesn't really make any difference. So now if I look at the colors, yeah, they seem to, yeah, that's more values like I was expecting. And then if we look at the tiles, they've all been assigned an image. Now what we want to try to do now is see if every color has a pair, and then make sure there's no duplicates, because since we have exactly 8 images, every color should just have 2 tiles associated with it. So yeah, now we need to get those gray squares to be colored correctly. Let's see here. We have the tile game object creator. I'm tempted, since this whole thing is kind of, well, I guess I was gonna say it's kind of temporary, but maybe it won't be, but I was tempted just to have the code to color the materials in here, but maybe we should just make a whole nother class, because yeah, we probably won't have that color field in the final game. And if we do, I can always promote this class to be in the system namespace instead of the test namespace. This will be a tile face colorer. test. It always has to think a bit whenever I switch around the namespaces, but okay, and this will be a component system. Because we can't really use jobs with any of the traditional Unity game objects because they're just anything in the old style Unity can't be multi-threaded. So if it can't be multi-threaded, you can't use it in jobs. Okay, so basically this gets, doesn't it listen for an event? Yeah, the update query. I thought oh, we have an event to like test for pairing. So I guess we can assume this finishes in one frame, and so I think I'll just listen for that event on this tile face colorer as well. And then when that runs, we can get the data. So in order to do that, we just gotta create a query for this request tile pair randomization, and then require this query to contain well, if we ever pass any query to this require for update, Unity will only call on update on the system if there's at least one entity that matches the query, which for us, we only care if it has this component. So on the actual update, we'll just do something like, well, we need to get a list of all images and then a list of all tiles. And also here we'll need to get this board game objects class. Which holds a reference to each of the temporary little cubes we have out. So in order to get that, we can just call game object find object of type. And then in order to get the two different queries we'll need, or the two different entity types, we'll need to have two entity queries. One for tile faces, and then one for the actual tile objects. And then it'll be pretty simple just to get this query. We mostly care about, for the tile face query, I guess we'll need two things here. We need the tile position, or no, the tile face ID. So we can get the ID for this specific one to make sure it matches what's on the tile. And then we'll need the display information so we can get the color. And then for the tile query, we just need, well, we'll need the tile position so that we can match up the tile with the matching board game object. And then we'll need the tile image so we can match this image with the color we want to apply. So now both of these queries will look for any entity that has both of these components on them. And I guess we do want to require both of these for updates, because if either is empty, then there's no reason to run the algorithm. Okay, now to get the data out of it, let's just have tile face IDs. Oh yeah, it's 2 component data array. Yeah, then we just have to tell it how long we're going to use this array, which we can use temp job because we're going to dispose of it at the end of this function. So all these colors. Oops. Display texture. And finally we'll need the information about the tiles themselves, so tile positions. And the tile image. Maybe I should rename this to... I've noticed I'm kind of like interchanging the term tile face and tile image, but okay, so now what we need to do is for each tile, we need to look through every tile face ID until they find one that matches what's on that tile, and then set the color and the corresponding face color to... Oh wait, I said that backwards. Set the color and the corresponding game object to the face color. So for I equals, let's do this different actually. Int t equals 0. Wait, I'm doing the wrong thing. It should be tile positions. And then for every tile face ID, if tile images t dot image equals tile face ID I dot ID, then use board game objects dot tile objects. Okay, so we don't just use the index, we actually have to get the position. Okay, let's make another function for this. Void set color, and we'll pass in... What do we pass in? So we only... board game objects, it's just stored as a game object, so we're going to have to extract a material out of it. Okay, well, since this is just a test class, I won't worry about making it too pretty. So it should actually be a float 3. Okay, and so we'll call the set color function to tile face colors dot color. So again, what this is just doing is it looks through for every tile, and then for every face ID, if the tile image matches this face ID, then we need to use this face ID's color onto the tile game object. So in order to do that, we'll just get the material out of it. Okay, I can think of another issue here, but I'm just going to be very hacky here. Let's see. Let's get the mesh renderer out of this. Get component, mesh renderer, and then we'll make a copy of the renderer's material. And then set this material's color that doesn't work. I have to cast it to a new color. And then set this renderer material. Okay, so this will be fine for now, but obviously this isn't very efficient because it creates a new material every time we have to change the color. Thankfully, we're just going to have to do it once whenever we start up the game, so I don't think it will be that big of a deal. Oh, hey, 1,000,000%. Something you're confused by? Alright, so let's see what happened. Well, obviously these aren't colored, so okay, I forgot to tell it to update in group, so maybe that's the issue. This should be, yeah, I have to call the update, or not call, tag this to update in the presentation system group. Which will cause this system to be updated at the end of the frame. Am I getting... Oh yes, I'm getting an error. Oh, I think I know what might have happened. I also need to tell this to update after the board or after the tiles are created. I don't know if that would actually be an issue, but we might as well. That's confusing. Just the code, or... Yeah, it takes a while to wrap your head around Unity's new job system, but if you have any specific questions, I can try to help. And then also I forgot to dispose of these tiles. A rookie mistake. Or dispose of these arrays, I mean. There we go. Didn't like the capital. Yeah, don't hesitate to ask anything, I don't mind. Alright, so now I think Unity is probably going to keep on throwing those errors unless I restart it. But I don't really want to have to wait for it to reload, so maybe I can try to fix this without having to do that. Okay, yeah, so it's still giving me these debug leaks, but I think it's only because I forgot to dispose of the errors before. Interestingly, these still aren't colored, so what could be going on? So the face colorer did appear in here. You're from Germany and learning English, and you're a newbie programmer. Oh, well, no problems there. I can understand you just fine, so don't feel bad. I guess I should make sure that this actually is running by doing a print. Let's see. Recolor. I'll just say recolored game object dot name and see what pops up. Although it's gonna get drowned out by the warning, so guess. You started to learn HTML. Oh yeah, that's actually how I first learned how to program. So you're in good company. I think HTML is a pretty good beginner programming because there's not too much actually like code that you have to write, but you kind of get used to thinking about working with programs. Where am I from? I live in the US right now, Texas specifically. Okay, so it is saying it's recolored every tile, but obviously they're still gray. I think this might be the same issue we had before in our other project where setting the tile or the color in the material doesn't actually do anything. We have to be more specific. Let me open up this shader in code and see what the name of the base color is. Oh yeah, so it is just base color. So what I have to do actually is just call set color and pass it that specific name, and I think that should work. Currently learning computer science, or you're a student. Yeah, well, it makes sense that they'd start with HTML, so that's good. Okay, so now we can finally see some colors, but it's not... Okay, so I guess these are different. Okay, maybe using colors wasn't the best idea because these green... Well, these are different, I guess, but we can... Are these all the same, or... They kind of look like it's a duplicate. Okay, so what tile are these? So this is, I think, 0, 1, 2. So let's look at 2 and 3 and these to see if they all have the same image. So we know we have an issue. Okay, so yeah, tile 0 is green. Wait, I'm confused now. Because it says tile 0 has image 0. And so does tile 1, but these appear differently. Maybe there's a better way to try to visualize this. Well, first I think I'll just print out the position here. Except it's not passed. And color ID. So now we can kind of match up the numbers here to see if they make sense. Position, tile, positions, and tile, face IDs. Okay. Okay, so tile 0, position 0 has color ID 10. So are these different or all the same? It's really hard to tell with those greens, but I also see 4 purples, and they look the same. So that must be ID 14 because it's last on the color wheel. So maybe this is position 1. They don't seem to match up to what I'd expect, but I also don't see more than 2 14s, but I see 4 12s. Where's the... yeah, 12 there. Oh, actually, I bet 14 is probably pink. And yeah, so 12 is purple. Okay. But nevertheless, there is a duplicate. And it looks like... let's see, do I see any 6? Oh yeah, there's 6. Yeah, there's no 8s. So I wonder what color that would be. Okay, so regardless, our little tile matching algorithm does have some bug to it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is go to our code that creates our random sequence, and instead of having it be based on the millisecond, I'm just going to always have it be based on some number. Let's go with 5, so that every time we test this, it will give the same result. That way we know that if we ever get the correct result, it's not just a fluke of the random number. Okay, now see, this looks different, and we can see that the purple is gone here, and there's duplicate red. And yeah, we can see that there's 4 color ID 0, and so we only want there to be 2 of them. And then if we replay, those same exact colors should be there. Yeah, it's the same pattern, so we want to try to get rid of these extra 2 reds. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna just kind of read through the algorithm to see if I can see any obvious bugs before we do a deep dive and try and figure out exactly what's wrong. So here, so this is just all set up. I doubt the bug is in this part of the code because it's just kind of bookkeeping to tell the jobs what data to run. Hey, it's 399. What's a Twitch interactive game? It's going to be a game kind of like Twitch Plays Pokemon or something like that, where Twitch chatters will be able to play the game through chat. And then they'll do other things like it's going to download Twitch users' logos and display it on the tiles. And things like, and keep score, things like that. Yeah, so I think this code should all be fine. Is it Unity WebGL? I think I should be able to publish it as WebGL, but it should also work in Windows, so yes. Alright, so here the first job. Yeah, first we just copy all the tile positions, so nothing can go wrong here. And then while there's at least, well, there's 2 or more unpaired tiles, we just remove 2 and add them to this list. And then if there's only 1 unpaired tile left, we just add it as a quote pair, but it's paired with itself to the list, and so that should get rid of all of them. And thanks for the follow, It's. I appreciate it. So, I mean, this all looks fine. Maybe this code is wrong. So first we have to grab the random sequence from this array, and then we call next integer. I wonder... Well, I didn't ever get any out of range errors, so I think this is working correctly. But maybe I should... Actually, Unity... excuse me, Unity doesn't really have any documentation, so... I was gonna say, I wondered if this is inclusive, like would it... Because we don't want it to actually ever return this length. We want it to return the length minus 1 as the maximum. Usually next integer works like that, but I don't know if it specifically if this Unity version does. But that wouldn't have caused this error anyway. We would have got a overflow exception. And then unpaired tiles. So we just grab the randomly chosen index, and then we remove it from the list, and the swap back part just means it picks the last element in this list and places it into this index, so it doesn't like shift the values backwards. It's just a lot faster that way. So I feel like this code's not wrong, so maybe it's in the pair assignment. What's the error message? Well, we're not actually getting an error. I just know that that there's 2 pairs of tiles that have been assigned the same image here, and every image should just be assigned to only 2 tiles, so I know that something in the algorithm is wrong. So here we look at unused images, and we duplicate the list. And then we take the first pair off of the pair queue, and if there's more than 1 unused image, which just means... Oh, is this wrong? Shouldn't it be more than 0? Okay, I think that was the error. Because what's happening... Oh yeah, I think that was it, because if we check it if there's more than 1, then 1 image won't be guaranteed to be chosen. Instead, what would happen is that for the last pair, it would just pick from any image, so there could be a duplicate. So I'm pretty sure that was the problem. Let's test it to find out. Okay, yeah, this looks good. Again, these greens are really similar, but those are 2 different colors of green. I don't know if it will show up on the stream, but let me... Now I'll revert that change I did to make the random sequence always the same, so we can test a few different configurations. Okay, so this looks good. Again, this is the yellow green, and then this is the bluish green, these 2. So no duplicates that I can see. Okay, these are the two bluish green and those are two yellow greens. Okay, let's just try it one more time. But so far, I don't notice any problems. Yeah, two bluish greens, two yellow greens, and everything else is good. Okay, so I'm satisfied that we fixed the bug. So I think we can move on. Alright. So yeah, we basically finished the pair image assigner, so maybe we should... Well, there's a few things we could do now. We could try to focus on downloading any user images. That would be a pretty big project because right now the game doesn't deal at all with users, so I'd have to do all the code to like figure out who's watching and things like that, which I'm gonna need to do sometime. I'm just not sure if that time is now. I think it might be better if I do the code that will let me actually just play the game. So maybe we should do the part that checks when people choose tiles to reveal them, and then if it's two matching. So how the game works is, well, the final game is each of these tiles will be hidden, so nobody will be able to tell what the actual colors are. And then you pick two tiles and the game will reveal them. If they're a match, then that player would get a point. If they're not a match, then they go back to being hidden. And so you have to kind of remember which tiles are which color. So let's see, I'll need to be able to have a command to like hide and unhide tiles, and also I'll be able to choose which ones I want to be able to reveal and then check if it's a pair. Okay, so how do I want to start this? First of all, this tile face color, I guess, I should change it so that I can hide and unhide tiles. So how do I want to deal with that? Do I want to have like a component that I add to the tile that says that it's hidden? Because we could do something like this, and then if the tile contains this component, then it would just be hidden. Or we could have something like, I don't know, tile status, which would have like a boolean. Or we could do something completely different, because it seems like a tile by default is always hidden, and the only time it would be revealed is if it's currently being chosen. So there's a few different ways we could handle it. But I think I like the idea of having like a revealed or a hidden component on the tile, because then the systems that would deal with revealing the tile would just look to see if this component is added to it, then they could just change the material on the texture or whatever. Probably want to do some kind of animation, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the data, I guess the database side of the game. Okay, so now this tile colorer would only want to color tiles if they have a revealed tag. But I kind of want to keep this around so we can test if we ever have to deal with a tile pairer again. Or debug the tile pairer, I mean. So, I'm just gonna have a kind of dummy component here. Public test tile faces. We'll leave the S in there. So now it's going to require some entity with this test tile faces component to exist. So whenever we want this to run, we can just create an entity with this component. So now when I play the game, all the boxes should be gray again. Yep. Okay. And then, let me see. If I just go to this board creator and create some entity. With that test tile faces command, then suddenly those cubes should be colored again. Okay, so now it seems... Okay, it wouldn't let me switch over to the scene, so I wasn't sure what was going on. But yeah, so now they're all colored. Okay. So let's try and do something that if I... Well, I was going to say if I click on the tile, but the thing is, for the final game, there's no reason that we would actually want to be able to click, so I don't feel like I need to deal with mouse picking, because everything will be done through Twitch chat. But on the other hand, I do want some way that I can test this stuff out without having to go to Twitch chat. So maybe I should make... I think the best way to do this. I mean, I guess mouse picking is not really that difficult, but yeah, I guess the other option is I'd have like a chat bar like in the actual game. That I could just type stuff into, but that seems kind of funny. But maybe that is the best way to do it, because then I would just use the same code path to interact with the game, except I wouldn't have to have Twitch running. So if I ever needed to test it without Twitch, then I could just use that dialog box. Okay, and I don't think it will be too difficult to set up. So let me just make UI input field okay, it appears the first time we use Text Mesh Pro. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, Text Mesh. It's hard for me to say. Text Mesh Pro is just a better, I guess, text tool for Unity. Used to, you could just use the default Text Mesh, but Unity has included Text Mesh Pro for free, so why not use it? Trying to do this head on so we can see what's going on. So this is the Unity's UI system. We did a lot of work with it before on my old game, our old stream project, so it might be familiar to long-time viewers. So I guess just in the bottom left, I'll have a panel that you can type in text, and then there'll be a way to maybe a keybind or something to show it and hide it, but I won't worry about that just yet. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is just set up a panel. So this will be the test chat panel. And I just wanted to have some blank text that would appear before it. That'll just be a label. Okay, backwards. Okay, the text was reversed there. So this will just be I'll just call it chat, that's fine. And this chat panel will give it a horizontal layout, which means that Unity will kind of place them horizontally. We want it to not stretch, because we kind of want them to be placed in the smallest area possible. And I'll align the middle left so that way chat will be, well, I was going to say horizontally centered or vertically centered, but it doesn't look like it. And then I want to place this on the bottom left corner. Oh, okay, so the width and the height is confusing this. Can I do a content size setter? I don't use the UI too much, so every time I use it I have to do a little bit of refresher. Okay, so this is a little more like what I wanted. Let's make the label slightly bigger. Okay. And then let's add a little bit of padding on the left, just so that the chat's not up against the very edge of the screen, or the label, I mean. And then a little bit of spacing. And now what I'd like to do is make chat not be so, or this label not take up all this unneeded space. I'm trying to remember how to do that. Something like use child size, I think. Oh yeah, so that's it. So this is a little confusing because for some reason control child size always confuses me. Like, does that mean that the child gets to set the size, or does the layout group set the size? I guess it is kind of true that the layout group sets the size, but it sets it to the child's like preferred size. And so for the input field, that actually makes it empty. So how you can fix that is by adding a layout element object. And so we'll just set the preferred width here to, I don't know, something pretty long. I actually kind of want it to take up the rest of the real estate on the bottom of the screen. So if I set flexible width to 1, that means it will stretch to the edge of the screen. Okay. I think this is good. Let's actually play and test that out. I should be able to type in the input field. Oh, I don't know what's going on with those bugs. So obviously something is not right. Because it has no font? Why would it just not go to default font? I kind of like the matchup, so that's fine. Did I make this a normal text object and not a text mesh pro? I think I might have. So text mesh pro label. Okay, so it's obviously too big now. So I'll just set the size to 16. And then I want to have it be vertically aligned. Oh yeah, and I need to actually set the text. And I think I'd rather it be black. So for some reason the text here is really big, so I'll give it a size of 16 and maybe that will fix the issue. No. We can see it's taking the text I'm typing, but we can't see it. Okay, so I just had to set the vertical alignment to fit, I guess. Alright, okay, so now we've got some basic chat set up here. Let's just call this, I don't know, UI canvas. Yeah, whenever you work with the UI, it creates this canvas and event system, and you kind of have to leave them here. It always annoys me because I'd like to parent the event system to the UI canvas, but I think that kind of confuses it, so. Also, I don't know if I like that spacing at the bottom. Not even sure why that's there because... Oh, I think it's because the width of, or the height of something is set to 50. Oh, the label? I thought that I just need to have the panel control the child height as well, probably. Well, that's interesting because apparently the text label has no intrinsic height. I'll just set something here. What do I want it to be? Why did that not work? Oh, because the horizontal fit is unconstrained, so I need to set this to preferred size. Oh, wait. No. Yeah, this should be preferred size, not minimum size. And then... why did this break? It was working a second ago. A lot of times when I mess with the UI, I have kind of issues with this, and it seems to not refresh until you exit. I told it to expand, so it should give it the maximum width possible. Oh, okay, it's because this width is hard-coded. So I actually want it to stretch across the bottom of the screen. So I think I need to set the X max anchor to 1. So now the width seems to be better, but it's not expanding the input field. Okay. I'm a little annoyed because it was working just a second ago. If I give it a preferred width. Oh. Why is that happening? I don't want to spend forever on UI, but it seems like whenever I dip my feet into it, I have issues like this. Horizontal. Okay, so if I set it to preferred size, the width actually goes into the negatives, which is strange. I don't want to spend forever on this, and I'm annoyed because it was working just a second ago. Maybe I'll restart Unity real quick. Anyway, I think this will be, thinking through it, I think making this like fake chat text input is going to be pretty useful, because we won't always be able to test with Twitch chat. Hi Brick Sparts, how are you doing? Thanks for coming by. Alright, so it looks like it's still too squished right there. I guess I can brute force it. Well, I tried to set the minimum width and then it did something weird like that. I don't know why that is. Because the width... yeah, it should be stretching all the way. Oh, okay. Yeah, this was confusing me. Okay, so if you have this error, it's because this is the position for the right side and not the width. So I think if I set this to 0, that means it won't be offset. Because I think before it was saying it was 900 pixels offset from the right side of the screen. Oh, you're a bit tired, Brick Sports? Well, me too, if I'm being honest, but unfortunately, well, actually, no, fortunately, after the stream I'll be done for the day, so. Okay. so I guess now I can fix that. Okay, so now it's working. Got any nuggets of game design wisdom? I would just say try to create a quick prototype of any game that you want to try out, or any idea you want to try out, because that'll let you know pretty quickly if it's fun or not, and allow you to try to make changes before you invest too much work. Okay, so what was bothering me now is that this intertext isn't aligned horizontally, but okay, there, if I click that, it's better. You're a team making a puzzle game, and we're nearly ready to do our first playtesting. That's always the most exciting part. So I hope it goes well. Okay, so yeah, I'm done fiddling with the UI for now. So let's go ahead and do some code that will actually read inputs. And I think for UI, I'm going to have another namespace here to try and keep it separate. What do I want to... I'll just make something to chat box manager that will control everything that has to deal with that. Have I made any puzzle games? Any tips on level design? Let me think. I don't think I've actually made like a traditional puzzle game, because yeah, I actually really want to work on level design. I don't get to do it that often because most of the games I make have been like either procedurally generated or kind of like more arcade style. But yeah, I really want to try to make some type of puzzle game pretty soon. Unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot of advice on that. Kind of funny thinking about it, actually, because puzzle games are some of my favorites. Like, I really like a lot of Zachtronics games and oh, what's that one? Tetris Attack, things like that. This project has already taught you quite a bit about level design. Yeah, I bet. When you get into like actually making a game, you'll learn pretty quickly what's fun or not. So what am I trying to do here? Let's have a start function. So I guess I'll need to get a reference to the text. What's it called? The text field, but it's a TextMesh Pro text field, so I forget what that's called. Especially in a visual/level based puzzle. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so it's called the TMP input field. Input field. I would just go ahead and use that namespace. Something you realized recently is a distinction on how some different genres can utilize depth, ultimately lead to different strengths, weaknesses, and their own challenges. Yeah, that's true. I think, yeah, puzzle and maybe like strategy games. Well, do you mean like depth and I guess the game challenge, or like visual depth? So the chat box manager, I guess instead of like it trying to find it on its own, I'll just have it be a field that I can place that there. Yeah, game design depth. Okay. But yeah, that's definitely true because like an action game, I mean, you want to have some complexity there, but at the end of the day, it's more about, I guess, getting your blood pumping or something. Well, whereas a puzzle or a strategy game is more about trying to think things through. Some of an emergent and an inherent complexity. Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the best puzzle games I think are ones that, yeah, the depth comes out of the actual, I guess, level design of it. Depth in strategy game is used differently than in many puzzle games. Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's just, yeah, it's more like depth from, yeah, arising from the actual level or puzzle, and then depth from the mechanics themselves. Okay, so here we want to listen to an event for when we enter text. So on submit, I think that's right. I think this will give me a callback when the user presses enter while the field is visible or focused. I'll need to test it out, but oh no, that's not what I wanted. I don't want a property. I want callback. Okay, so it's not. Okay, I thought it was a like a classic C# event, and I'd have to send it a delegate, but it's actually some kind of object. I haven't used TextMesh Pro enough to know how this works. Interesting. That's just a delegate. I probably need to like. There's probably some class that I can register this event to call it some function, but oh, I see. It's using Unity's game object event system. It's been a while since I've done that from code. With level design, in which mini puzzle games, less of level and more of scenario design, the designer can use more contrived examples of depth, where contrived examples of depth usually aren't feasible in strategy games, so they're ignored. Okay. Yeah, I get what you mean. So it's like, kind of think of an example, but yeah, in strategy games you don't. Yeah, it's like coming more from the mechanics instead of something that the designer deliberately set up in the scenario. At least I think that's what you're talking about. I guess I need to do a little research about how this Unity event is set up. Let me look that up real quick. Unity event. Okay, so yeah, I just call the add listener. So that's what I was looking for. So on submit, add listener. Yeah, let's just call this handle chat submit. And normally I need to also remove this listener, but I think it'll be active the whole runtime of the game, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And then does it submit the text? I might just grab the text from the field, but after the main challenges of these two examples, strategy creating deep mechanics that are balanced and synergized into emergent complexity that is useful to the player, and then puzzle, you want to find interesting bits of emergent complexity and designing levels around them. Okay, yeah. And then after Jam finishes, and if we decide to continue the project, I'm gonna see if you can chat a bit with the creator. Oh, I loved Baba Is You. That's definitely another good puzzle game. Hope to pick his brain a bit. Yeah, for sure. He's yeah, some of the stuff he thought of there is pretty out of this world. But yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking about puzzle versus strategy, but you're definitely right, or onto something there. It makes me want to design a puzzle game next. Maybe that will be the game I do in December. I think that'd be kind of fun to do some type of level design on stream. Bubba's U's mechanics offer themselves to a lot of depth. Yeah. Both in that they all interconnect in interesting ways, and also that he can create different, I guess, blocks that affect the level in all different kinds of interesting ways. Yeah, a mix between changing rule sets and pushing objects. Okay. Let's see. So I guess for now I'm just gonna print out the chat, or the text in the chat, and then I'll probably want to clear it. I think that should work. So if I add the manager here, and then just pass it the input field. Let's see if this works. And then if I press enter, okay, so yeah, it prints out here and then clears the chat box. So that's fine, but if I, for instance, typed just a random number and then click somewhere else, it leaves it there, which I guess isn't really an issue. Insert. Okay, so yeah, that works fine. If you remove the pushing pulling aspect, do you think it'd lose a lot of depth? Not to say there aren't substitutes that could provide the same or more depth though. Yeah, because the pushing and pulling also kind of ties the mechanics into, like you said, the level itself. So not only do you have to think about like what the different blocks do, but also how they're spatially related. Okay, so this is actually pretty simple, but I guess the fun part is reacting to what is typed into the text. For me, probably I'll just have like a debug log that says executed some command. Because basically I want this to be, like in the future, a direct link into the same code that reads the commands from Twitch chat. So let me see. Probably how I want to handle that. I could either just like create each command received from Twitch chat into an entity. That seems kind of that seems like it'd create a lot of data churn because we'd create an entity and then it would be handled immediately and then deleted. So it's probably better if I just have some class that we send chat commands to and then it deals with them right away. I hope your game can provide a similar amount of depth, but currently you feel it's a bit lacking in comparison. Boy, I wouldn't feel too bad because, yeah, like I said, Baba Is You is a very good puzzle game, but the core mechanic of your game is the player's jump height, which changes throughout the level. You can absorb impact from falling like a spring, adding potential energy to spin when they jump again. Well, that does sound pretty interesting. But yeah, I guess it does... Yeah, it doesn't have quite as much depth as Baba Is You because... Well, I don't want to say because I don't know your game for sure, but... It seems like you have like the spatial part of it, which is the jumping, but... I'm trying to think of the right word, but it doesn't have like the... I guess the interconnectedness that all the different block types provide. Just on the surface, of course. Okay, so obviously I don't want to have the code that deals with this text in the chat box manager. I want to have some separate code, which I guess won't be a system. I guess I should make another folder here because it's not going to be part of the job system. It's not going to be a mono behavior. Oh, okay, I'll just call it like logic. And let's see. Let's make it... I'll just call it a chat command parser. Using namespace. Oh right, I don't need the using keyword, of course. Namespace, Twitch, memory, game logic, or calling it logic. It's starting to sound a bit redundant here, but maybe it should just go in the core. I don't know. I spent too long trying to organize my code. There's a bit of depth from this alone with the level geometry. I think the number of different scenarios that you can find yourself in is ultimately limited. Core mechanic alone isn't super interesting in your opinion. Well, I think you have something there, but yeah, in order to get, if you wanted to try and have as much complexity as like Baba Is You, maybe, I don't know if you said this already. Oh, you said the impact from falling. So maybe like if you fall on different types of terrain, it could do different things. I'm not sure. Now that you're saying this, you suppose the same could be said about Baba Is You if you imagine splitting Baba into two games. One that was strictly the pushing part and one that was strictly the logic stuff. The sum of the games wouldn't be as good as the combination. Yeah, I definitely feel you there. Yeah, the pushing part is basically just classic Zelda dungeon, which isn't really that interesting either until you put it with the trying to figure out how to like the navigation of the dungeon as a whole. And then the logic stuff would basically just be like a programming game. So it's the combination that makes it really interesting. There are different types of blocks that add a bunch of complexity. Oh, okay. Suppose you're feeling less bad about the jumping mechanic now. Yeah, I think I kind of like the jumping mechanic. Just from hearing about it to you, because it does add in like the kind of physical aspect to it, which could be fun. Maybe like the sequence that you jump on things could maybe add something to it. Maybe like a bit of like, I guess, mechanical challenge where you have to try to jump on blocks in a certain order. And it would affect the world in different ways. Chat command parser, okay. So we want to have a public. Let's call this handle command. Now in the Twitch lib, it returns the string, which is the actual command, and then it has an array for the arguments. And then I'll also want to have, let's shorten that, and then something for the user. Okay. Now we're gonna have user handling separately. Thank Bricksparts for following. I really appreciate it. It's been interesting talking to you about game design, so yeah, thanks for chatting with me. So how do I want to handle this? I guess for now I'll just I'll just have it be a string. But probably in the future I could see myself passing just an integer for the user, because this user would be added to some database. I think that's all we care about, really. Do I want to do a dreaded switch statement where we just switch the command? And then have a ton of different cases here for every option. It doesn't sound very appealing. If I want to be really data oriented, I could have a different class for each command, and then the class is registered in a dictionary, and then that's probably the best way, because now that I think about it, I want to have these commands to be customizable. Okay, so let's dictionary. Oh, I see. I always forget you have to include the collections because it's not there by default. So we'll have a string for the command, and then class, or I could take delegate. Oh, since I want these to be customizable, maybe I should actually pass like an integer here or an enumeration, and then use that to index into some list of commands. I think that's probably the best way. But then that means I have to keep a list of commands as an enumeration. When I talk with Himpoli, BabaZoo creator, you definitely want to find out if he's got any specific methods by which he finds interesting scenarios to build a level around, or just a general process he he goes through when designing a level. You've already made a dozen or so levels, and about half of them you think are good or great, but others are definitely lackluster. I'm sure he has a lot that he didn't like either. From what like I said, I personally don't have a lot of experience with level design either. But from what I've read by others, there's a lot of trial and error. And then they make a ton of levels and basically pick out the ones that are the most fun. So I think you're definitely on the right track. Okay. So let me think. I really don't like the idea here of using an enumeration to track these commands, because like I said, the enumeration is going to have a field for each possible command. And if I'm going to go the route of having a delegate or a class for each command. I kind of want that to just be what decides it. So I think I'll go that route. So public interface chat command handler, and this will just have it's a handle chat command, and I'll have the same fields really. I guess technically we don't really have to pass the command to it, but I guess I'll go ahead because I could see there being some actually no. I was gonna say that there could be some way that they might slightly modify the command if the command string is different. But if I want the commands to be modifiable, then really this should not even care about this. So take that out. You've got an idea for how to handle the difficulty curve of the game in a way that I hope feels good for players that pick up on mechanics quickly, as well as those that get stuck on tough levels. See how it goes. And yeah, that's an aspect I hadn't thought about yet. Because yeah, there's definitely some people that complain about puzzle games, certain puzzle games difficulty curve being too steep, but then I'm sure other people pick up on it really quick, so yeah, that's an interesting problem to think about. I guess I'll just call this handler registry, and then on constructor I have a feeling I might be changing this later because I don't really like hiding the dictionary in this class. And then, yeah, because it'll need to be changed whenever the user edits their the command strings. Essentially, the idea comes down to a sort of pseudo-linear level progression. There would be main levels which would probably ramp up in difficulty quite a bit with each successive level. Okay, and then maybe like offshoots to practice or introduce like variations on the mechanic. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea, I think. So yeah, we're not going to do the switch, thankfully. So this will just be the modified command, and I'm going to convert this to uppercase, that way it's not case sensitive. And then the handler registry, let's do if handler registry try get value command, then out handler. Okay, so if it finds a handler, I guess we can just pass this information to the handler. Otherwise, we'll want to print some kind of error. Unrecognized. Oh, we wouldn't really want to have this error. Well, maybe we would, because if it's not recognized, then we might want to reply to the sender. So let's actually pass a boolean here. And so we won't actually throw any errors. We'll just return false if we can't handle the command. So maybe this should also return a boolean. And there would be a large amount of levels. That would be more optional, which creates scenarios that make certain bits of depth more obvious to the player. So hopefully if they get stuck, they can go back to something easier to learn about the systems. bit more complex than what I've laid out already, but that's the general idea. Yeah, I think that sounds good. So that, like, if they get stuck, well, first you can make like a difficult ramp for users that are getting bored because it's too easy, and then for the people that have a difficult time, they can go back and learn more about a specific problem that would hopefully help them to wrap their head around it. That's a good idea, I think. So the only problem about this is that if we just return a Boolean, we don't really know what the problem was. So that's the idea. Okay, I'm glad I understood that correctly. I don't really want to have to make the command handlers to have to deal with sending a response to the user if the command is incorrect. But I guess they could just call some helper for an error. Okay, I guess that's what I'll do. Because yeah, I don't think just sending a Boolean isn't gonna work. Okay, so for now we'll just print a debug, but I know that obviously this is gonna need to change. So invalid or unregistered. I guess this is just unregistered. Command. I guess, yeah, we can just use the initial command. I could pass the arguments in the user, but it's not really useful there. Okay, so I think we have the framework now, so we'd want to have some command. Right now, we want to have something that happens when we actually choose a tile to, or we pass something for our guess. So let's make a handler for that. I think I will have a folder just for command handlers now, since we've created this new class of objects. So this will be guess command handler. Space, rich memory, game logic, or command handlers. Oh, and of course I forgot the S on the folder. Hopefully this won't gum up Unity. Sometimes it doesn't like it when you change folder names, but okay, and this is gonna inherit from check command handler. Okay. It'd be nice if this could like register itself, but I guess that wouldn't work because again, there's going to be some other class that decides what the command string is. That is based on the user's preferences. Okay, so let me see. I'll write out the syntax here. So the main thing would be something like exclamation point guess. And then I think I'll use something like battleship coordinates. So A is, forget if it's horizontal or vertical, but it'd be something like A2, B3, or whatever. Or I guess it's actually chess coordinates is probably where it originated from. I guess I should look that up because I do want it to be kind of standardized. Let's see. What do they call it? Chess coordinates. Okay, it's called algebraic notation, apparently. Yeah, so A is the column, or the alphabet is the column, and numbers are the rows. Let's see. Okay. I already know that I'm going to want some class to be able to convert these numbers to the actual position for the tile. And I know it's going to be needed in a lot of different places, so I don't really want to write the code here. Bricks parts, be right back. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. So I guess that should also just be in core because it's going to be used by everything. Oh no, it's not track command. I guess since it's called algebraic notation. I could just call it decoder. Let's do something. I guess I'm just gonna call it the tile position decoder. I'm gonna try to make this be a static class so I don't have to worry about keeping around the instance of this. Although it does need to know the board's width, doesn't it? I could just pass it to it, which probably is the easiest way to deal with that. Especially since if we wanted to be able to use this code in a job, it would need to be static, so I think that is one reason why we might want to go with this. But actually we can't use strings in jobs anyway, so I don't know if it really matters that much, but I'm running public again, so I'm gonna make something to convert algebraic to position. And I guess we'll pass the algebraic coordinate. That should just be a string. Okay, so I think is the game still playable? It says there's an error. Oh, because it doesn't return a value, so if I just return something. Or we'll just throw an error. Throw new not implemented. Just so that it won't complain to me. I want to try to run and see if I can figure out how they're positioned, or how the tiles are positioned now. Although I guess I can pretty easily change that. Okay. Alright, so let's enable that testing mode. So it'll print out the coordinates for each. Oh, right. Okay, so it says tile position 0 is 14, which we know is purple. Okay, so 0 starts here. And then... Oh, actually... Yeah, 0 is pink. Yeah, so I got that backwards. So I guess it goes there. Okay, so far the color IDs are making sense. Because, yeah, again, the bigger the number here, the farther around it is on the color wheel. And pink is the last thing before red. So yeah, red should be 0, and then 2, which is position 4, is yellow, which makes sense. Okay, so it seems like it starts on the bottom left, moves horizontally, and then upwards. Again, I can change it, but yeah, traditionally, okay, so it goes facing you up, the numbers, and then left to right for the letters. So actually that's the same way that I've addressed them here. So again, this is A1, A2, oh wait, no, the letters are the columns, so A1, B1, C1, D1, and then A2, so on. That's actually pretty simple. Let's see, index 0, or I guess position 0 is bottom left or A1. Then position grows leftwards, then upwards. So I think it might be easier actually to start with position. And then translate it to algebraic. Let's put this comment up here. Oh, right. And so we need it, this needs to be past the position, and then it also needs to be past the width of the board. Going to the gym soon? Okay, Bricks Parts. I actually probably only have about 10 more minutes until I've got to leave to go get something to eat, so maybe we can finish up this conversion here. Okay, so I need to... This is interesting. So I want the algebraic to be just the letters, but I wonder, I'm not sure how, what's it called, not ASCII, for some reason all I can think of is UML, but that's not correct, but the other text format. Because I know obviously in ASCII I could just use the character upperspace A, and then if I wanted to get B I could add 1. But... oh, UTF, that's what I'm trying to think of. But strings are encoded in UTF now, and I'm not sure if that would work the same. So I might need to have an array. Which is kind of annoying, but... I don't think I need to worry about making sure that this is localizable, because actually that's a good point. I wonder, like, if I ever wanted to localize this to Japanese or something, or Russian, if they would still use the same coordinate system. But I think I'm thinking way too far ahead. And there might be a better way to do this, but I'm just gonna hardcode this for now because that's all we need for testing. Oh, I think my music thing just crashed, but it seems to be back. Okay, so if... so first we need to get the column and the row. And the column is just the position modulo the board width. And if you've never seen this modulo operator, it just takes, well, divides position by board width and returns the remainder. And then we'll do integer division to find the row, and this basically just throws out the remainder. Okay, and if the simplest way to do here would just be to call string format, and then we'd pass it a letter and a number, the alphabet, column, and then row to string. How come it doesn't like that? Not. Oh, because, yeah, I had the return type of string there. So this is good, but obviously it's kind of hacky. Well, actually it does work, but well, we'll probably never have a board larger than 26, but if you do, you're supposed to start doubling letters and everything. So we'd probably want to tackle that, but or maybe we should just enforce a maximum of 26 so that I don't have to deal with that, but I guess I want to be too difficult. Anyway, so we need to basically get the alphabet letter out of this coordinate and then parse the numerical part to get the row. String alphabet part. I'm just gonna assume for now that there's only one alphabet letter. So we can call substring, and we'll just get the first letter. And then 4 into I equals 0. Alphabet length. And then if the alphabet part equals alphabet I, then that is the row. Oh, also, or that's the column, I mean. And here I also want to increment this by 1 because programmatically the row starts at 0, but I want users to start the row with 1 because that matches with the chess coordinates. And column equals, and I guess we'll just, well, no, that would be weird. Let's just start it with 0. So obviously there's some issues here. The alphabet array only goes up to D for now. We don't support multiple letter alphabet coordinates. And if it doesn't find that letter in the array, then column would just default to 0. Although I think, yeah, so I need to also check for the lower and uppercase variant of this. Let's convert it to upper once, so string upper invariant equals alphabet part dot to upper invariant, and this is just so that users can return a lowercase, or could enter in lowercase into the chat if they wanted to. Okay, and then the row is pretty simple. We'll just do an int parse the algebraic coordinate substring. We'll start at position 0, and then it would be just the rest of the string, which means I just don't have to pass a length. And then once we have that, oh, again, we'll need the board width. Then the final position index Oh, and also we have to subtract this by 1, because again, row starts with 0 in the program. Then we'll return, the row times the board width plus the column. Okay, so yeah, this does work. But again, there's those errors. Why does this show up grayed out? Oh, it's saying I don't need to set this to 0 because it's always set here. Which I guess is true, but it's not super important. I could also just delay the creation of that variable until this line, which I guess is fine. But yeah, so there are some errors here, like I said, with the alphabet. And then also, we just blindly try to parse this part of the number part of the algebraic coordinate, which the user might not even pass in a number, or the coordinate could be too short. So yeah, we need to do a lot of verification of this coordinate since it's passed to us from the user, because they might not use the correct format. So let's say need to do a lot of validation of record and process edge cases. So yeah, we'll probably come back to this next time. But I don't know, it's not super interesting, so maybe we'll wait until it's actually an issue, but... Oh, okay, yeah, it's already 6, so I better wrap things up. But thanks, everybody, for coming by and watching and chatting with me. Yeah, it's been really great to talk to you, Bricksparts, about game design. I've enjoyed that, so thanks again. But, yeah, I guess I'll be back tomorrow with... Well, right now I'm just calling it Shader Thursday, but I know that's not that catchy. But basically, I'm just going to try to find a shader online that I'm going to try to replicate on stream and see how that goes. Should be pretty fun. I'm not exactly sure what shader I'm going to do yet, so it'll be a surprise to everybody. Then also, I will upload this to YouTube if you missed anything and you'd like to check it out later. I'll put some links in chat. And then, of course, I always plug my Discord if anybody's interested to talk to me there. I try to be pretty active on it. If I'm busy, I'll just set Do Not Disturb, and then I'll get back to you when I can. So don't ever worry to talk to me. And I think that's all. So yeah, I'll see you all later, and have a great day. Bye-bye.